guys, welcome in. Welcome to our Jumbo Live Coturnix Quail Chit Chat tonight. Let me move my camera slightly. I'm dealing with the highest tech of stuff. Like, oh, you know what? I never lock in place. Sorry about that. Damn. Thanks, Angela. She suggested I move the camera forward.
I think it's good to be closer.
Okay, cool. So that's good enough. Start that over again. Sorry about that. Rough and tumble with the camera here. Hi, I'm Christopher.
I'm Angela, and this is the Dinosaur Omelet. Today we are going to be talking about the jumbo quail. Christopher has a live
Quail. I'm trying to get him to calm down.
Yeah, he's a little bewildered.
We're going to be discussing these guys tonight, jumbo quail. So if you have any questions, drop them down there. I'll be happy to answer them. Oh, we do have questions. Here, hold this little guy.
Sorry, I didn't want to hold him. Hi, buddy.
Oh, hey there, Tommy. How you doing? What's up, guys? Oh, Verna's here. Hi, Verna.
Hello.
Hi. I had to switch into my comment section. You're going to be talking about quail. This is a male.
Don't squeeze him. Just
Yeah,
keep his wings. And
It's a male.
He'll calm down.
He's actually a very pretty bird. He's got a good size.
Yeah.
So these are our new, our breeders?
Yeah, he'll be 10 weeks old on Friday, so that's tomorrow. So
this is a jumbo Coturnix. We're going to talk about this, their application, what they're good for, etc., etc. Let me toss him back in his cage for a second. I'll bring him out in a minute. Okay, cool. Hi, guys. Welcome in. If you're new here with the Dinosaur Omelet, what do we do here? Nuclear reactor?
We encourage people to learn new skills and learn about ways to produce your own food if you can, or learn, anything that has to do with that betters the quality of your life. So usually that has to do with things you're eating, behaviors you're doing, being outside, in handling animals, working with plants, having your family around. But yeah, so we encourage people who are interested in self-sufficiency and homesteading and want to produce their own eggs and meat. Of course, chickens is always a given, but the jumbo quail are really ideal because they're fast growing, they're small, they're easy to care for, and they're highly productive with eggs and meat.
They are highly productive.
We also have, for fun and families, the pet side of things. We have our Dino Puff Silkies that I produce and make available to the public.
Little silky chickens.
So yeah, they're fluff balls.
So that's the fun stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. A little FYI disclosure. None of the information I will be giving you here tonight will be taken as medical or veterinary advice. Please see the appropriate professional for your medical, veterinary, poultry needs. Entertainment, etc., and education is available here. Only don't apply anything without doing your due diligence. And that's a serious note because people are always on the internet giving out bad information. Just do a little bit of investigation. All right, cool. Got a Tommy note here. What did he say? I have a question with quail being expensive to maintain with their higher protein diets. Good question. And care needs. What are some tips that you have to cut the cost down on care? Ooh, we had a note before that. We're starting with quail again toward the end of the winter. I miss them. Their calls, their smell. I love quail. I love the taste. Whoa, mama. Yeah, good stuff. I like that message. So cutting down on cost, their cost return of investment, ROI.
So a big part of it.
Pause. I just want to say something before we go on. People who are visiting, down in the description is an abundance of available, useful, free information. In the very top is this thing I always tell people to check out. It's a 25-question how to raise your quail Q&A. It answers all the newbie startup questions, so you don't have to wing it without any knowledge or information. We wrote this for our customers to give them something because nobody actually cares for anybody. They're like, here, you bought something, you're on your own. But we want people, when we deal with them, to have a satisfactory experience, especially with the kids. So I wrote this because the other thing I know about people, they're exceptionally lazy and they don't want to read big books. So I boiled down the entire care of these birds into a little 3-page pamphlet. Anyway, it's down the bottom. It's free. Print it, get it, and use it. Now, Angela, you was talking about a question about the expensive
cost
quail.
And such. Yeah, so feed really it comes down to the feed is what you were asking about, and they do have higher protein needs particularly while they're in their growing state. So that's from just hatched to our boy there.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. There's something amazing just happened. I bought pants from the Goodwill.
Oh,
and it had money in the pocket.
There's a lot of cash in your Goodwill
It's
pants.
not much. It's just like $8, but still.
Weird.
Pennies
All right
from
then.
heaven.
So while they're growing, to 10 weeks, let me restate that. From hatch to 6 weeks, they're growing rapidly. Once they hit 5 weeks, they're pretty comparable, not fully grown at all, but they're comparable to what they're going to look like full grown.
And we'll talk about the feed later.
Yeah.
And like go more in depth.
Right. So they need that the higher protein, especially by then. And we always encourage people, once you get to 6 weeks, the hens are going to start laying eggs, and their growth rate does slow down. So you can reduce the protein content and mix the high protein feed with a layer feed. So then the hens are getting their calcium.
That's in that free little pamphlet.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in there. So Tommy, it depends too what you're doing with your quail. I'm assuming, I don't want to assume anything, that you're going to be raising the meat birds, like these jumbo birds. I'm suspecting for eggs anyway, at least. If that's the case. And there's different variety of birds. We strictly raise the jumbo Coturnix, and they're the brown or the pharaoh color.
The wild, pharaoh. Mm-hmm.
Many different names. Yeah, the jumbo Japonica Coturnix. Anywho, we raise them because of the utilitarian aspect. They're excellent meat producers and egg producers. As for food and money costs, cutting down on that, I think probably the biggest waste is waste, like the birds and their eating habits. They're filthy eaters. So you're going to want to have a feeding system, a minimal waste or zero waste feeding system as best as possible. I've been using J feeders, which hook onto the back of the hutch with a slip of hardware cloth, which does a sufficient job. It doesn't do 100%, but they're certainly not digging it out like they used to.
For those of you who are new or just investigating the quail, their eating habits are different than chickens. They don't gorge themselves like chickens might do, because chickens they'll eat a lot, but they eat what they need as they need it. But what they tend to do is kind of peck and dig the food, and chickens just peck and eat. So they can effectively shovel the food out of a feeder if you don't have a good feeder for quail.
Let me explain. So chicken physiology versus quail physiology. This is why they're doing that. So chickens are large, powerful birds, and they use their hooks, their talons in their feet, and they're ripping up the ground, they're scratching, and they're pecking. So they're kind of pecking at stuff. They have really good eyesight. They're very precision. Quails have great eyesight too. But these big birds with their large muscular structures can rip apart the ground. Quail do not have that strength, so they're eating a different diet in the wild. Little seeds, little insects.
They're used to eating
so
their beaks.
Take a patch of grass this big, give it to a chicken, give it to a quail. The chicken's going to extract more nutrients out of that small square because they're able to dig down and get to things, roots and insects that a quail cannot. So the quail's designed kind of just to peck at these surface things, not really scratch and peck as much as they do.
Yeah, but with the feed again, it will get costly if you're feeding them high protein feeds for an extended period of time or throughout their entire lifetime. We don't feed a very high protein for our adults, our mature birds. We feed 17-18% protein.
For the adults.
They're not growing anymore. Yes, they still have a fast metabolism, so they're digesting that food faster, and because they're using so much energy to produce those eggs. But if your feed, the quality of your protein in your feed, if you have a good food, that's the nutrients, ingredients are good ingredients, and especially if there's animal proteins in there, that's going to be more supportive of their energy and their form than just strictly plant proteins.
So also you want to be aware of not overfeeding protein. So that's not good for poultry, for avian critters, because the way they process, I think we just did a video on this, they produce a lot of nitrogen. So their nitrogenic waste is uric acid, and that's a burden on them. They don't excrete urine, they excrete solid crystalline substances. Human beings and mammals are good at excessive protein. They can extract the used up none or no good excess of nitrogen from the protein. Whereas the birds, it's more taxing on them to have to deal with that heavier protein load. Unless they're a vulture.
Yeah, and then
they're designed different.
The one other thing I wanted to mention with cost is the thing about poultry, chickens or quail, but we're talking about quail right now, is that they're easy to hatch and they're really tiny to start, and it's super exciting and easy to kind of like, have a lot of them. It's important to have a plan, to have a goal of how many quail you want to have and have intent, for that number of quail, because yes, you're going to end up spending, excess finances in feed if you have a lot of extra mouths to feed that you weren't really planning on and weren't sure what you were going to do with. So just plan on what the number you want to have is, and kind of stick to that, and try and stay as organized as you can with the numbers, because it is easy to kind of get out of hand with how tiny they are.
And here is another cost saving measure, actually from Verna, which I'm glad she mentioned it. Should you offer quail grit? Yeah, all birds should have grit, except for the only bird that doesn't use grit that has a gizzard is a hummingbird.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Tommy did a really cool video about hummingbirds. But yeah, so grit, most of you guys know, if you're new and you're not very familiar with the inside of a chicken or a bird, they don't have teeth, they can't chew their food, but they still need to grind it up. So they do so in an organ called the gizzard. It's down in their body after their acidic stomach breaks down the food a little, goes to the gizzard, and it just pulverizes by muscular contractions. But the thing that's breaking the feed apart, yes, is the grit, Verna. Right, yeah, so absolutely. You should be offering the quails grit.
Mention the difference between the limestone and grit.
Good point, Angela W. Do you make quail feed? Okay, well,
there's a lot of questions.
Difference between people they buy a feed for their chickens and it has oyster shell in it or limestone. And so they assume, well, that's a hard, rocky substance. That's grit. Well,
and even the adult quail food or layer quail food will have that too.
Yeah, or the quail with their layer food will have oyster or limestone in it. Now, this is exceptional sources of calcium. However, it doesn't work as grit because as soon as it gets in the body, it starts breaking down. It does not stay in the stomach. It doesn't stay in the gizzard. It breaks down very quickly and enters the bloodstream as calcium carbonate. So you want to have a dedicated grit, hard stone like granite. That's not going to break down. Intuitively, you touch a limestone, it's a rock. But once it gets into that acidic environment, especially down there in the gizzardy area, it's grinding up into a powder very rapidly. Do you make your quail feed like you do your chicken feed? No, you can answer that.
We don't yet at this time. We work with a feed mill, a local feed mill.
Which, by the way, that'll save you money.
Yes, it will for sure.
If you're doing a lot of quail and you can get bulk feed.
So
from a mill.
So typically, the owner of a feed mill, they have all sorts of ingredients and they know how to mix different things together. And often, if you talk with them, the quail diet is pretty similar to the adult mature chickens. But if you talk with them, they can create a formula for you and make a mix. You just have to, communicate with them, make sure that they do that. But our local feed mill, they mix, it's like 600 pounds for us at once for our quail. So we aren't currently making our own feed for our quail, but we are closely working with our feed mill to do that for fresh feed. And then it's also lower cost because it's in basic bags. It's cutting out the middleman, so it's not marked up in price.
Yeah, so you save money with the direct to consumer mill,
and it's fresh.
Doesn't not come in a pretty bag.
Right.
It doesn't have pictures of birds on it. It's just a white sack. So that's the only downside. Those are really good questions. All right, I'm glad you asked that. So I actually did I know these quails very well, and I'm glad this is more questions and comments. Glad you guys were asking questions. But I want to go through some stuff for new folks. We're in here for 15 minutes. So let me talk to you briefly about here's why Coturnix Quail. I should go over that. What is the benefit of a Coturnix Quail versus chicken? Is it better? No, each one has their own qualities.
Mhm.
But they're not like people are always having a battle of
Yeah,
quails
there's
are better.
differences, pros and cons.
So the benefit of the quail is they do not take up any space in your yard. You raise them very efficiently in a hutch system. It takes up a small footprint. What is it like? What do we have? 2x4, the
I
smaller
think so,
ones.
yeah. We
So
have a
it's
tower.
A 2x4 hutch, which is a tower. You have 3 of them stacked, and each one of those hutches will hold 20 to 24 quail. You don't want to stack them too much, but we do about 3 per square foot, and we never really pack them that tight.
And just a quick note, when we talk about the jumbo quail, we're pretty much talking about them in a efficient, productive way, which is why you'll hear us always talking about a hutch system, because we want them to be healthy. We have them up off the ground.
Sorry.
We have them up off the ground to keep them healthy, away from organisms that, you know, dwell in the ground. Also, easy to collect eggs, and we want them happy and healthy. But there are lots of people who like to have them in an aviary. Do you want me to hold him?
No. I just want to put his head up so people can see this.
There are
guy.
lots of people who like aviaries, and they'll have like branches and vegetation and such. That's totally fine. But usually when we're talking about them, we're talking about meeting their needs, but also meeting our needs. So that's why we talk about the hutch system.
Yes. So for sure, that's one of the qualities of these quail. They take up smaller spaces. You can raise them in a hutch, and people do that in their backyard at their town home, even in the cities. They're much less under the scrutiny of ordinances. But check your ordinances. It's not like chickens. People have a problem with chickens because of the crowing of
the crow. Even the egg songs of the hens of the chickens, they're very loud. So these guys are they're quiet.
Yeah, well, chickens. I mean, the roosters wake up with the sun, before the sun. So it's Saturday, and Jerry next door wants to sleep till noon, and chickens are going off. So that's what there's ordinances, mainly because I think of the sound. Yeah, so they take up a small amount of space. They're not very loud. Their noise is really imperceptible. Yeah.
Now, sometimes people will have bachelor pad pens. They're growing out a whole bunch of roosters, male quails, for processing for their meat. And they can, if they're grown for quite a long time, like if you're growing them out to 10 weeks, then they're going to start getting noisy if it's only males. But
I wanted to see his lovely wings.
Oh.
I'll bring him back out.
But there are different things you can do to calm down the males and such.
Right. So yeah, little space. They don't take up a lot of space. They're quiet. They mature very rapidly, so your egg production is going to be quick. A chicken takes 5 months, sometimes 6 months, depending on the breed, from the day they hatch to when they're laying eggs. With quail, it's more like a month and a half, about 6 weeks to 8 weeks. By 8 weeks, they're laying consistently. You'll start to see them at 6 weeks. And they lay about 1 egg a day, 300 a year. So you might miss a day here or there. But they're efficient egg layers and consistent egg layers. What else is there to mention about these guys? So their sound, their management, or their cage anyway. They're not susceptible to disease like chicken.
Well, as long as they're
in their hutch.
Yeah, when they're up off the ground, then they're pretty easy to keep.
They're not. Yeah, they're not. So they're not going to be exposed to pathogens like ground dwelling if you keep them in a tractor or chicken yard where you have. And it's not just the dirt; it's the birds flying by. So the birds flying by the chicken pens, they come down and they want to eat the chicken food too, or they drop droppings, and it starts to make the area maybe compromised biologically. Whereas quail, they're in a hutch, they're not really exposed to very much. They can still get ill, especially if you're not cleaning them. Right, so keep the animals clean.
Their temperament is different than chickens. They like, for families who have little kids and they interact with the chickens, if there's roosters or if there's dominant hens, sometimes they can get a little bit feisty. The chickens can get a little feisty and maybe not be always as friendly with little people. And you know, there's always a chance of getting pecked. The quail, they don't peck. You can reach in and grab them, and usually they just like scuttle away, or if they're used to you, they'll stand there and let you pick them up. But there's no fear of them like attacking your hand. They're very mild tempered, and they'd rather either scuttle away or they're already used to you, so they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to mention about benefit of quail versus chickens? Not particularly. I think that's it. I don't want to go too much into that. Just general stuff. Quail are great. They're good meat producers if you're using them for meat. Actually, I got some info for you guys. So that quail I was holding at full size, they're like 14 or 15 ounces, right? For a good sized bird, 12 to 15.
Yeah, hens tend to be heavier than the males. They're more likely to be 14 to 16. The males are going to be typically around 12, 13. It's normal.
That's how it
ounces.
is. Yeah. Well, those hens are the birthing critters. Well,
Yes.
they don't birth, they lay eggs.
Yeah, right. Usually.
Here is a little reference, Tommy. You might be interested in what are you actually getting from an animal after processing. So there's live weight, and there's this beautiful word called carcass yield. Okay, after you butcher them, and then usable meat. So live weight is, of course, when you measure them walking around the yard. They have guts. They're filled up. They're having a happy chicken day. So this quail, let's do a 15-ounce live quail as an example. How much meat are you actually getting out of this thing? At processing, a carcass yield for generally these poultry is going to be about 68 to 72% of live weight. So if it's 15 ounces, 70% of that is going to be about 10 and a half ounces or so after processing. That means you got rid of that, took the insides out, cleaned them up, and set them on the counter. But you're not eating all that. There's bones in there, okay? So how much usable meat, like high quality protein meat, is there? About 6.5 to 7 ounces or so, like 6.5 ounces for a 15-ounce bird. Usable meat, 6.5 to 7.
After everything's cleaned up and
and that's fairly what I'd expect, because that's kind of like what's happening. Like when we eat dinner, I'll eat like 2 quails. Is 12 ounces or so. Let me turn this thing off. Okay, focus. I'm changing my video. There we go. I had a text come in. This thing should be not interfering. Verna said something. What did she say here? If they do peck, oh God, why can't I read it? If they do peck, they don't break the skin. Yes, sorry about that. So if they do peck, the little quail. Oh, you mean pecking her? Don't think about
anybody. I guess and that's something that it does matter where you get your birds from. Find a reputable breeder, somebody who is paying attention to their line, meeting the form, the temperament, everything matters. Because if you get bad quality, when I say bad quality, I mean, could be somebody who's just breeding them and then wanted to sell them one time, chicks, or it could be somebody who's breeding and selling but not paying attention to the traits and such in their breeders. And that's important because you can get bad tempered animals in any type of animal.
So when you guys are looking for critters, it's very, very easy to hatch an egg. Okay, it does not take very much. It's a simple thing. Very low skill, low entry point to hatch an egg. So anybody can hatch an egg, which means anybody can sell a hatched egg. But not everybody is particular with their breeding or reproduction of desirable traits. So you have to do your due diligence, do your research, and investigate people who you're dealing with any kind of critter. Okay, chicken, quail, puppy, moose, doesn't matter. You want to make sure the breeder knows what they're doing and they have some kind of program going on. Not only that, but the byproduct you can use for other things which can give you more use. Dog treats, bone broth, etc. Yes, that's absolutely true. Thank you, Verna.
Yeah,
ma'am. Bone broth. Full of collagen. Good for you. It's the magic in chicken soup. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so we talked about benefits, space requirements, whatever. Things we've discussed. Avoiding illness. So the hutch. A question that's coming up frequently in the cold season is, should I heat my chickens? Should I heat my quail? Should I cover the hutches? Should I wrap my chicken coop? Like all the things you would do when you get cold. No, and no. You shouldn't do any of that stuff. The animals are going to thrive and they're going to acclimate to the temperature change. Do not add heat to the environment, to their coops, even in very cold environments. The most drastic thing that'll happen is they'll decrease laying.
If it gets super cold
If
all
it
of a
gets
sudden.
super, super cold, like sub-freezing cold.
The important thing is to provide windbreaks. You don't want to have strong, like cold wind on them, the chickens or the quails. So when it's super cold and the wind hits them, that's going to ruffle the feathers and potentially they could get chilled because it's disrupting that heat barrier that they've created beneath their feathers and against their skin. So just make a wind break so that when they're out in the open area, they're not in direct wind. That's all. Then their feathers will keep them warm.
The birds are warm. Their body's running about 106 degrees, 105 degrees. It's pretty hot. Like, I'd be going to the hospital if I had a bird temperature. And the other thing is with wrapping a hutch or covering any of these coops is a bad thing to do because these animals, when they respirate, when they exhale, they breathe out lots of moisture. So they breathe out quite a bit of moisture. Vern is rolling out. Okay.
Bye, Verna.
Bye, Verna.
Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah. They respirate quite a bit of water, and the water touching droppings in the cage is going to produce ammonia. It's going to allow the growth of pathogens. And the birds are still hot, and they're going to keep it warm in there too.
Birds especially are most susceptible to respiratory illness, no matter the bird. So ventilation is very important, no matter the month or time of the year. Summer, hot, and cold winter, they do need proper ventilation.
Yeah. The reason I'm focusing on that, it sounds kind of negative, and you want to know about quail, but the idea is you want to have a thriving, functioning quail covey, working for you. You don't want to have to deal with problems like, oh, why didn't anybody tell you? Well, I'm telling you, they don't need heat because they're designed to withstand heat. The feathers are very, very
cold.
Withstand cold. Feathers are exquisitely designed to trap body heat. It's like 10 insulation suits. Like, it's really good. Like goose down jackets. Remember those? Because they're exceptional at trapping heat. It's not even your own down. It's a goose's. So they're very good with that. You don't need to wrap it or add a heater. Heaters also, it's going to shock them going from a warm area to a freezing environment. And that's going to screw it. It's going to stress them, stress their lungs, etc. Okay, cool. What else did we talk about? We did protein needs, calcium needs. We talk about. I think we did talk about calcium. So, do they eat the same amount of calcium as a chicken, or when do we apply calcium to feed?
By 6 once they're starting, they're nearing that egg laying age, 6 weeks. It's at that time. It's important to make sure they have calcium in their feed. And they may not lay many eggs, but it's just important that their eggs that they do lay have shells on them. That calcium will ensure their shells, and it does help prevent the prolapse, which is not good.
Plus
excuse me.
The quail and the chicken, they have a medullary bone system. Their bones absorb calcium, and they release calcium for the construction of eggshell. So you want to make sure there's not a deficiency of calcium. It's not good for this.
Yeah, it's just dangerous if the egg doesn't have a shell, because as it's going through their reproductive tract, if it bursts, infection can ensue. So
I was going to get into vitamin D for transport of calcium for the use of catalytic calcium absorption. I'm not going to do the brainiac stuff tonight.
Yeah, this is true.
So I'm thinking of getting quails. Are they going to be good with the kids? Did we talk about that?
Not really. I just mentioned temperament versus chickens.
They have a more delicate structure than chickens. Children have a kind of like an inherent drive to pick up everything
and squeeze.
So if you have kids, just be careful to instruct them properly to handle them delicately.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to break a wing. They are very quick to heal, it's amazing how they heal. Yeah. But you do have to take care when handling at any age of the quail's life.
Yeah, another concern about hutches. So really, I think when doing quail, you design around your hutch. So like, how many quail do I need? Like the thing that if I'm thinking of getting quail, I'm going to design the hutch around my needs. I'm not going to find a hutch and then or if I did find a hutch, that's going to determine what's happening. Why is this? It's because the number of quail that you can keep are stipulated by floor space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the example I talk about was a 2-foot by 4-foot hutch. So what is that? 8 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. 8 square feet will house, like I said, 20 to 24 quail. We say a maximum of 3 per square feet, and people go crazy about that. I heard somebody tell me you should only have 1 per every 4 feet.
They're not chickens. So we do have people who talk to us about temperament issues. You can have temperamental issues if they're overpacked, they're too squished in there, that'll get irritating. Or if they're underpacked, if there's too much space in there. Sometimes they're totally fine. It just depends on your covey, the personalities you have in your covey. Sometimes when there's not very many quail in the space, that might incentivize them to become territorial. And I'm not sure, that's just the way they are. Somebody might claim the feeder or particular area of the hutch or space and then become aggressive.
They'll get pecky. They'll start ripping each other. If they're too packed, they're going to stress, and they're going to do bird stress behaviors and pecking.
Unfortunately, because of their little sharp beaks, it's very quick for them to do damage. Unfortunately, even if it's not like aggressiveness, it's just really, quick peck, and then there's damage.
And like anything else, you're going to have a buildup of droppings. It's going to present a possibility of disease spread. You can't have things squished together.
So if you have
tight.
A good amount, just monitor the personalities that you have in your covey. But yeah, you can have a lot in there or a few. It just depends. But there's pros and cons, and
not too few and not too many.
Yeah, it just depends on the covey.
And if you're doing,
I would definitely say not too many. Don't overstuff.
And like any animal, if you're in the camp of I just want one as a pet, do not get one as a pet. Mm-hmm. Get a few.
They're very social.
They're social animals. You don't want to put a single little quail
they will get depressed
in quail prison. Stressors. So big stressors. I want eggs. So how do I get eggs? How do I get meat? Well, we want to prevent not getting eggs, and one of the things that causes not getting eggs is stressors. Stressors are going to be things that are unusual to the environment, to the bird, or things that will pique the bird's survival instincts, like fear. What do you call it? Predators?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's a predator harassing them at night and climbing around on their cage, or if there's the neighbor's dog comes by all of a sudden and is, all around the cage and scares them. That's not a normal thing that they're used to. Sudden loud noises, that's not normal in the area.
So all this stuff is hormonally driven inside of these birds. And when they get these stress hormones are going out, they retract from releasing hormones to say lay eggs. Okay, so they're a little scared because going to get eaten and they're conserving energy. It's all this really cool, deep physiology I'm not going to talk about, but they're conserving energy, and there's no reason to raise young in a hostile environment. So they're not going to be laying their egg. Oh, FYI about the egg laying, that's not their natural thing. Birds do not lay eggs every day. That had to be domesticated into the bird. Birds in the wild do not lay eggs every day. They do so in what's called clutches. They'll lay a handful of eggs a few times a year. Mm-hmm. So we have to domesticate chickens and quail and ducks and all these other birds that start. Well, ducks, they lay in clutches. Do they lay every day? They do clutches still.
The clutches, yeah.
We have ducks. We have muskies. Anyway, they have to be domesticated to get them to lay every day. Okay? But they still have a lot of their ancestral drive and mechanics. So, for example, if they're frightened, they got a predator coming around, they're going to not be laying eggs, and they're going to look for shelter, and they can conserve energy. They're in a hyper state alert. This is releasing cortisol and other hormones. Their immune systems get suppressed if they're under chronic stress for a duration of time. Intermittent stress is fine. Dog comes by, they're used to this. This is normal, and they'll adapt to it. Mm-hmm. That may not even affect their egg laying. Okay.
But if it's a temporary stressor like that, they might skip a day, laying, or 2 days, and then they'll pick back up when the stress leaves. But if it's a stressor, continual, you have raccoons crawling all over your hutches at night, you don't know, that's a continual stressor, and they'll stop. If they don't have access to food and water daily, like all the time, they don't overeat again. They just eat what they need, but they eat frequently. They eat, throughout the day. If they run out of food and they're not being fed enough, or if their food nutrition isn't meeting their needs physically, that's a stressor. And then also light.
Yeah, so, right. Good thing you mentioned that. Yeah, the lighting. The lighting is another thing. Birds function on photoperiodicity. They have a photoperiod. There's not enough sunlight, there's not enough light. Their brain, again, releasing hormones, says, well, stop releasing that egg-laying hormone. We don't have enough daylight. We're saving up energy. It's winter time. We need the calories. We're not going to waste it on making eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So they turn off. But what do? We like to trick them. We trick them by turning on artificial lights. We put artificial lights in the coop for chickens or in the hutch for your quail to the tune of 16 to 18 hours of daylight.
Total daylight.
Total daylight. So if you have a 10-hour daylight because the sun's going down so quickly. Is that right? You only get 10 hours of daylight? That's depressing. Anyway, let's say you only have 10 hours of daylight with the sun. Then I'm going to put my artificial lighting to turn on 4 hours before and stay on 2 to 4 hours afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Or if you have your quail hutch or quail cage in a very shaded, dense shaded area, maybe like right next to your house or a structure, and the shade of that structure is hitting the coop, maybe they're not getting quality light, and that can affect the amount of light that they're getting, how their body's, using that light. Or during the summertime, if you have them under a really heavily shaded tree, same thing. So just keep that in mind. You might think it's really sunny, but they're under this really shaded tree and they stop laying. So you might have to add lights.
Hopefully there's enough ambient lighting. Mm-hmm. I was looking through this thing. There's a lot of really good points that I didn't even think of putting into my outline. What did it say? Can I introduce new quail to my existing flock? That's something people do because their flock, they age out. So egg laying lifespan is about 18 months?
Yeah. Yep.
So they're going to live longer.
A year and a half. They're still going to be laying, but it's going to start slightly deteriorating. Yeah, decreasing. By 2 years, it's going to be a lot less. You might be getting some eggs, but it's not like when they prematurely.
So that's your decision time. Do you turn these quails into meat and put them in the freezer? That's what we do. Mm-hmm. We say, sorry, quails. I know you did nothing but lay eggs. You guys did great. Now you're going to the freezer. But at some point, you need to start considering replacing the birds if you want to have that egg production continual. And this means you're going to have overlap. You're going to have old birds living with the new younger birds potentially.
Yeah, so I always, the way I do it and the way I encourage people to do it is wait till your new birds are 5 weeks old. I wouldn't go younger than 5 weeks. Some people do, but I encourage 5 weeks. And the reason why is because they're similar in size. Your older birds will still be bigger, but they're similar in size and they're very close to maturing. At 6 weeks, they're going to mature. The hens are going to start laying eggs. The males are going to go active, even though they're still growing. But they look similar to the older birds, so they won't, stand out so much. And also they'll have that mentality of an adult. They won't be a juvenile who's scared and running. But yeah, there are different ways to actually do the integration process. But yeah, I would wait till your new young ones are 5 weeks before doing the integration.
Yes, indeed. All right. Cage hutch. You never mentioned that. Important thing about hutch is how the roof, the height of the hutch is actually quite important.
The ceiling.
Yes. So quails like to break their own necks. It's their favorite thing to do, and they do that by banging their head when they jump up. So one of their reflexes to avoid getting their ground birds and the predators on the ground. So what do they do to get away from the predator coming at them?
Quick burst
up in the sky. So if they get startled in their cage, they do their same response, but they'll hit the top of the cage. So how do we prevent the quail getting injured, and why are they getting injured? If your hutch is going to be 12 inches?
Yeah. What do you think?
So a 12-inch, anyway, okay.
Yeah, finish your thought.
So if you're going to have a hard roof, that roof is going to have to be pretty high.
Yeah, it would have to be 6 feet.
Yeah. So if you're doing a stiff, like just a plank board, if they're going to be hitting their head on a potential board, you don't want that board under 6 feet. At 6 feet, 4, 5, 6 feet, they decrease their upward momentum, their energy. And really, they never fly higher than this. Like I've dropped tons of them, and they're like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm just like, even if it's a tall ceiling aviary, I still think it would be better to have a safety net to prevent them from actually possibly touching the ceiling.
Well, then what's going to happen in a hutch? So in a hutch, the roofing should majority be some kind of a wire. Like we use a hardware cloth, something that predators can't get in. The reason is when they hit that, it has give to it. It's like a reverse trampoline. Boing, they hit it and they bounce back. They don't get injured. If, however, my only option is a stiff, hard roof, I want to put some kind of padding in there for rubber.
Or floating wire or netting of some sort underneath.
Something soft that if they jump up, they're not going to get injured because they can injure their neck when they get startled and hop up. So that's a concern about the hutch. I think that's the main
so the
concern.
What's stated usually is if it's a hutch, usually you don't want to go higher than 2 feet. But even still, like I said, I have some sort of floating ceiling if it's a hard top, or to wire. And if it's smaller, same thing. But still, I'm just a big fan because they will hop up. That's just what they do if they get startled. If you're like, oh, I forgot to collect eggs, but it's dark. Oh, it's okay. It's not that late, and you run out and you shine your flashlight. They're all gonna like hit the ceiling.
Yeah, they do. They get startled at night.
Yeah, or if a predator lurks, and they get startled, they're gonna hit the ceiling. So I think whatever ceiling you have, pad it or put a floating ceiling. Install a floating ceiling if you can't have a wire, strictly a wire, hardware cloth.
And that's going to eliminate most of these injuries.
Yeah.
Once in a while, you come out and you'll see a quail that's permanently sleeping, unfortunately.
or head injuries or neck injuries tend to look like, if it's still breathing, a quail laying on its side, not getting up. It's alert but not able to get up, or you sit it up, it falls over. Usually that's because they popped up and injured themselves.
Dispatching.
Yeah.
They should go to the freezer. However, many injuries, especially the superficial, the cuts, they heal back from really quickly. You want to isolate the injured bird, treat it, wash off the wound. If you're going to be using an what do you call it, antiseptics? Or like a Neosporin type thing. Nothing with painkiller. That's for the chickens, quail, any poultry. You don't want to have the canes in it or the painkillers. That's toxic. Not good for the bird.
Make sure it's poultry safe.
Okay, cool. I think, is there anything else we should really discuss here that I missed? I don't think so. I think we missed everything here. But medical red flags.
If you were getting chicks to start and you've never had them before,
let's go
but
over.
You've had chicken chicks, they are different than chicken chicks. And in how the main difference is chicken chicks are bumbly, and they're adorable little poof balls, and they'll just kind of like just move around. Like I'm talking about day olds to a week old, or a little older. They're just they're not super active. They're gonna be sleeping, eating, drinking, talking to each other. The quail, as soon as they come out of the egg and they're dried and fluffy, they're like ants. They're just running everywhere. Like it's pretty much pause or fast forward. They're stopped eating, or they're sleeping, or they're running. So very different.
Thank you, Rescue Rabbit. I hope you rescue rabbits. Thanks. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, drop them in there. If you're new to these birds, or if you have any questions. So a brief thing about, I wanted to go.
So if you're hatching chicks yourself and you have an incubator that you open the top of, make sure you place the incubator in something first, so that when you open the incubator, they don't run out of it, because they can do that. They're very quick. And then when they're in the brooder, just make sure the waterers and feeders are not too close to the sides of your brooder, because they will potentially get pinned between the food and the side of the brooder and perish. So you want to.
I thought it was taco. It's the same same avatar,
Yeah.
changed name.
Oh, okay.
That's all. Hi, Taco.
So you want to baby proof it, but yeah, they are different for kids handling them or you handling them. If you're holding a baby chick or a chicken chick, they're easy to hold. They just sit there and you can touch their little heads. Quail are like popcorn. They're just like they just start running and like hopping and like struggling in your hands. So you want to make sure you have if you're holding them a firm grip, but not not too tight. If they fall, you have to be careful that you're in an area where they're not going to get out of your hands and fall. They're just because they're delicate. Those are the main differences with the chicks.
And the quail will grow very super fast.
Yes.
So they're going to double in size, I guess, for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, they double in size. I would say.
Like if a quail kept growing
weeks.
At its rate from day 1 to day 2.
Slowing down, I think, at 4 weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it just kept growing at the same rate, by the end of the month, it would be the size of the state. Because they just keep getting double, double, double. Real quick about hatching these critters. In the live video section of our channel, we did a whole long format walkthrough on how to hatch these things. Remember?
Yeah. Did we do another one? Did we do one on our channel versus our Facebook?
We did one here on the YouTube.
Okay, good. Because the other one's not there anymore.
It's in the live department of our YouTube channel, how to hatch these eggs. Anyway, real quick about hatching. So quail versus chicken, it's not a big difference. Like how long is a chicken in the incubator?
Yeah, the chickens technically are 21 days. They're going to start, hatching probably day 20, 21. Quail, if your readings, your humidity and your temperature is going great for the whole hatch, the duration of the incubation, then a couple will start on day 16. You'll get most of them on day 17 and day 18. Be finishing maybe a couple stragglers on day 19. So it's 18 days technically.
A little under 2 weeks.
Well,
did I say
2 weeks?
A little more than 2 weeks. I don't know. Sorry, a little more than 2 weeks. The reason I'm mentioning that is if you're doing a meat program or something and your timing's important, you want to put those 2 weeks in there. Collecting eggs and the hatching time, like when they're going to hatch. If you're doing, like I said, a meat program where you're really tight and you're being efficient with it, then that time probably matters, and you want to keep that in mind rather than, I want to place these quails in 2 months. I'm going to hatch some now. Well, you got to hatch some.
Yeah, we did a whole video on that, and I think relatively it's about 3 months from if you're collecting to growing and then processing.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a meat process. We did a walkthrough on that in one of these videos. I was going to ask about the quail incubating. I don't want to get real in depth into the incubating. Is there any difference with humidities or temperatures versus chicken?
Temperature's same. Humidity is pretty similar with chickens.
Yeah, if you guys want to hatch your own critters, it's really simple. Get a decent incubator, but make sure you have a couple thermometers in there. Never just rely on the one because they're not always accurate, and you want to have redundancy. And the hydrometers, things telling you how much humidity is in there. You want to get those readings appropriate. The birds do it in the wild who naturally nest, do a phenomenal job. But since you're doing it artificially, you want to make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
Is that right? I think that sounds cool. Well, maybe we should pack it up.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think this is packing it up. I think we're going to pack it up, ladies and gentlemen. This has been really cool, though.
Yeah, so the reason why we
let me pull my quail out since I wasn't working.
The reason why the main difference with jumbos and standard quail, standard size Coturnix quail, it's many varieties. Coturnix quail, there's many varieties, different colors. The standard size are smaller. The jumbos, they're minimum 10 ounces, but generally good jumbo size.
How old is this guy?
He's going to be 10 weeks old on Friday.
Yeah.
He's part of our breeding program. He's in the newest group I yet have to sort and do selections. So he may or may not make the cut. We'll see after I do my selections.
So
this
Angela
weekend.
weighs every one of these birds
I weigh them, I inspect them,
and then gives them a little footband.
so I can track them.
So the footband's important because you keep your records. So we were actually doing breeding. So when you're buying quails off of some guy who's just hatching them, they're just hatching them. They're not breeding them with an actual program where they're taking data and being consistent with their data management, which is important.
Yeah, so I maintain a spiral breeding program, and what that means is I have at all times for my breeders, I have 3 groups, A, B, and C, and I have a rotation system of the males per the breeding groups to maintain the integrity of our birds, maintain the particular traits that I want in our line, and also keep a varied amount of genetic makeup so that the line doesn't get too closed up and then cause defects. It's open just enough so that defects don't pop up. I continuously, tediously select birds to keep in there, but it's just a rotation of males. But so the spiral breeding program that I keep enables us to always have chicks that are keeping the traits that I want in our jumbo birds, but it's varied enough. Their genetic makeup is varied enough that I'm not going to have any inbreeding at all at any time.
And if you're interested in that, we have a spiral breeding video.
Yes, we do. Yes,
so
we
there's
do.
a spiral breeding. There's a ton of stuff you can learn about all these different animals. You can go really in depth. I have a whole, I like the educational stuff and the academic stuff, but you don't need to go that deep to get them to function successfully. But it's always neat if you're interested in the information. And the more you know, the better you'll be at raising anything, really, because you'll understand little nuances here and there. It's like, oh, I'm seeing a discrepancy here in the eggshell, and I know they're getting enough calcium. Oh, they're not getting enough sunlight or vitamin D or whatever it might be. You can start to see things a little more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. I would like to say this is awesome. We didn't flip vertically.
Oh, no, we didn't.
The StreamYard, this service we use to make this video, for some reason there's a glitch, and every once in a while it'll flip us for no reason. All right, but it didn't, so it's cool. Thank you very much for coming in, gang. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for the comments and questions.
It's getting in the winter time. Oh, we're not going to be here next Thursday because it's turkey eating day.
Turkey eating day.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody a week early.
If anybody is watching this that are local to us, we're in southern Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and you're looking for jumbo quail, we are now starting our jumbo quail chick hatches, and we'll have hatched chicks, unsexed chicks available for pre-order starting pretty much now until the early beginning of spring. So just let us know.
Yeah, it's funny. Once it hits like January/early February, it's like a crazy rush. Everybody starts ordering birds.
We just do local
pickup
up at this time. We don't have hatching eggs available for shipping. So just local pickup of chicks. But anyway, thank you guys for being here.
Yeah. I am going to go guzzle a gallon of water.
Have a wonderful night.
See you guys.
And weekend.
Yes, thank you very much. Bye, Taco,
Bye,
Verna,
everyone.
Tommy, anybody else who here? See ya.